He thought she was just a ghost in an apron. She thought she was invisible. But when the most dangerous man in Seoul falls for the woman who holds the key to his destruction, love becomes the deadliest weapon of all. If you love romances where the villain burns the world down for his girl, you need to subscribe right now and hit that like button. Trust me, you are not ready for the secret she's hiding. Let's dive in. The rain in the city didn't wash away the grime, it just made the neon lights reflect harder off the wet pavement. Inside the VIP section of the Obsidian Lounge, the air smelled of expensive scotch and fear. Duail didn't drink. He didn't smoke. He sat in the corner of the velvet booth, his legs crossed, checking the time on a watch that cost more than the building they were sitting in. He was beautiful in a terrifying way, sharp jawline, eyes like cold coal, and a stillness that made his bodyguards nervous. He was the head of the Jang Syndicate, a man who had ordered 3 executions before breakfast this morning. But tonight, he wasn't hunting. He was hiding. He was hiding from the insomnia that had plagued him for 3 years. The silence in his penthouse was too loud. He needed the noise of the club to drown out the screaming in his head. "Boss," his lieutenant, Min Jae, whispered in Korean, leaning in close. "The shipment is compromised. The rat is in the kitchen." Duail didn't blink. He just stared at the empty glass on the table. "Deal with it." Quietly. Across the room, Bessie adjusted her apron, trying to make herself small. It was a skill she had perfected over the last 5 years. "Keep your head down. Don't make eye contact. Be the furniture." Bessie wasn't her real name, but in this city, nobody used real names. She was tired. Her feet throbbed in her cheap black heels, and the music was giving her a migraine. But she needed the tips. Her rent was 3 weeks late, and the shadows of her past were creeping closer. She picked up her tray, balancing 3 heavy crystal decanters. The floor manager, a greasy man named Carl, snapped his fingers at her. "Table 9. The Koreans. Don't mess it up, babe. They tip big if you're pretty, and they break fingers if you're clumsy." Bessie swallowed hard. She hated table 9. The energy coming off that booth was radioactive. But she nodded, her face a mask of practiced indifference. She walked through the smoke, weaving between dancing bodies, until she reached the VIP rope. The guard let her through. She approached the table, keeping her eyes on the ice bucket. She could feel him before she saw him. Duail. The center of gravity in the room. As she set the decanter down, her hand brushed against his sleeve. The fabric was silk, cold and smooth. "Water," Duail said. His voice was deep, a rumble that vibrated through the table. He spoke in English, but the accent was thick, laced with exhaustion. "No ice." Bessie poured the water. Her hand didn't shake. She was a statue of service. She placed the glass in front of him, and for a split second, she made the mistake of looking up. Their eyes locked. It felt like walking into a freezer. Duail stopped tapping his finger against his knee. He looked at her, really looked at her. He saw the fraying collar of her uniform. He saw the dark circles under her eyes that matched his own. He saw a woman who was just as tired of the world as he was. "What is your name?" he asked, ignoring the men around him who were armed with concealed Glocks. "Bessie, sir," she whispered. "Bessie," he tested the name, finding it foreign on his tongue. He leaned forward, the predator scenting something interesting. "You are very quiet, Bessie." "I like quiet." Min Jae, the lieutenant, scoffed in Korean, assuming the waitress couldn't understand. "Why are you talking to the help, boss? She looks like she sleeps in a dumpster." Bessie's face remained perfectly blank. She didn't flinch. She didn't blink. She just bowed her head respectfully and turned to leave. But as she walked away, her heart was hammering against her ribs like a trapped bird. Because Duail didn't know. His lieutenant didn't know. Bessie understood every single word they had just said. And she knew exactly who they were about to kill in the kitchen. Comment secret below if you think Bessie should run, or boss if you think she should stay. Should I continue to the moment Duael discovers the truth? The kitchen was a chaotic symphony of clattering pans and shouting cooks, but for Bessie, the noise faded into a dull roar. Her hands were trembling as she stacked dirty plates near the sink. The rat is in the kitchen. That's what they had said. She glanced at the dishwasher, a nervous boy named Kenji. He was new. He was sweating, looking at the back exit every 5 seconds. He was the rat. And the men in the black suits were coming for him. Bessie gripped the edge of the sink. She should mind her business. In her world, minding your business kept you alive. But she remembered the fear. She remembered running from her own demons 3 years ago. She walked past Kenji, dropping a spoon on purpose. As she bent down to pick it up, she hissed, low and fast, "Black suit. VIP. Leave. Now." Kenji froze. He looked at her, his eyes wide with terror. He didn't ask questions. He dropped his sponge and bolted out the back door into the rainy alley. Bessie let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. She stood up and gasped. Duael was standing in the doorway of the kitchen. He looked out of place among the grease and steam, like a panther standing in a dumpster. His tuxedo was spotless. He wasn't looking at the back door where the boy had fled. He was looking at her. "You are clumsy," Duael said, stepping closer. The kitchen staff fell silent. The air pressure in the room seemed to drop. I slipped," Bessie stammered, clutching the dirty spoon like a weapon. Duael stopped inches from her. He smelled of rain and expensive cologne. He reached out, his long fingers taking the spoon from her hand and tossing it into the sink with a loud clang. "You are shaking, Bessie," he murmured, his voice low enough that only she could hear. "Are you afraid of me?" "I'm afraid of losing my job," she lied. He tilted his head. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a stack of cash, thick, crisp bills. He tucked it into the pocket of her apron. The heat of his knuckles against her waist burned through the fabric. "Now you don't need the job," he said. "Come with me." It wasn't a question. It was a command wrapped in velvet. This is the moment everything changes. If you've ever had to make a choice between safety and danger, smash that like button right now. Bessie stepped back, her back hitting the cold stainless steel counter. "I can't. I don't go with customers. It's against the rules." Duael actually smiled. It was a terrifying, jagged thing. "I own the building, Bessie. I make the rules." "No," she said, her voice firmer this time. The smile vanished from his face. No one said no to Duael. Not the police, not the politicians, and certainly not the waitresses. But instead of anger, something else sparked in his eyes. Obsession. "You are interesting," he whispered. "Most women throw themselves at my feet. You run away?" Suddenly, the kitchen doors burst open. Min-jae, the lieutenant, stormed in, looking furious. He scanned the room and saw the empty dishwasher station. He backed a string of harsh Korean at Duael. "Boss, the rat is gone." Someone tipped him off. It had to be one of the staff. Bessie's heart stopped. She looked down at her shoes. Duael turned to Min-jae, his face cold. He replied in Korean, "Find him. And kill anyone who saw him leave." Then, Duael turned back to Bessie. He stared at her, searching for something. For a second, Bessie thought he knew. She thought he could see the translation running through her brain. "Go home, Bessie," Duael said in English, his voice devoid of the warmth it held a moment ago. "It is not safe here tonight." He turned and walked out, his men trailing behind him like shadows. Bessie waited 10 seconds, then she grabbed her bag and ran. She ran out the side door, into the pouring rain. She didn't wait for the bus. She just ran. But she didn't notice the black SUV idling down the street. And she didn't see Duael sitting in the back seat, watching her run through the puddles. "Follow her," Duael ordered the driver. "I want to know where she sleeps. I want to know who she is." And I want to know why she flinched when Min-jae spoke Korean. The driver nodded. The car rolled forward, lights off. The hunter had found his prey. But Duayel didn't realize that this prey had teeth. Guys, Duayel is suspicious. He noticed her reaction. Do you think he's going to hurt her, or is he already falling in love? Let me know in the comments. Basie lived in a neighborhood where the street lights flickered and the sirens never stopped. Her apartment was a tiny studio on the 4th floor with a lock that barely worked. She slammed the door shut and engaged all 3 deadbolts. Her hands were shaking so bad she dropped her keys. She slid down the door, sitting on the floor, gasping for air. She had saved Kenji. But she had caught the eye of the devil. She closed her eyes, trying to calm down. He doesn't know, she told herself. He thinks I'm just a waitress. He's rich, he'll forget about me by morning. She stood up and flicked on the light switch. The bulb buzzed and illuminated her small room, a mattress on the floor, stacks of books, and a peeling wallpaper. But the air felt different. Heavier. You have a lot of locks for a woman with nothing to steal, a voice said from the shadows near the window. Basie screamed and spun around. Duayel was sitting in her only chair, looking like a king on a broken throne. He had taken off his jacket. His white shirt was unbuttoned at the top, exposing the tattoo of a dragon climbing up his neck. He looked dangerous, relaxed, and completely at home in her poverty. How did you get in? Basie whispered, backing up until she hit the wall. I picked the lock, Duayel said, standing up. He moved slowly, like he was approaching a frightened animal. And you are lying to me, Basie. He stopped right in front of her. He was tall, towering over her. The smell of rain and expensive tobacco filled her nose. I didn't lie, she breathed, her heart pounding against his chest as he stepped closer. You did, Duayel murmured. He reached out and tucked a strand of her wet hair behind her ear. His fingers lingered on her jawline, his thumb brushing her pulse. My men searched the kitchen. They found nothing. But the boy is gone. And you? He leaned down, his lips brushing her ear. You looked guilty. Basie couldn't move. The fear was mixing with something else, something electric. His touch was possessive. Why are you here? She asked, her voice trembling. If you want to kill me, just do it. Duayel pulled back to look at her face. His eyes were dark, swirling with an obsession that terrified her. Kill you? No. I haven't slept in 3 years, Basie. But tonight, when I looked at you, the noise in my head stopped. You are the only quiet thing in this loud city. He trapped her between his arms against the wall. I don't want to kill you. I want to keep you. Oh my God, he is obsessed. Ladies, if a billionaire mafia boss broke into your house and said he wanted to keep you, what are you doing? Calling the cops or locking the door? Tell me in the comments. I'm not a pet, Basie snapped, finding a sudden spark of courage. Get out of my house. Duayel laughed. A genuine, dark chuckle. You have fire. Good. Suddenly, his phone buzzed. He ignored it. It buzzed again. He frowned and pulled it out. He answered in Korean, fast and angry. Talk to me. Did you find the rat? Basie froze. She stared at a crack in the wall, focusing on it with all her might. Don't react. Don't react. Don't react. The voice on the other end of the phone was loud enough for her to hear. It was Min-jae. Boss, we found Kenji. We have him in the warehouse. He's crying. He says the waitress warned him. Basie's blood turned to ice. Duayel went still. He slowly lowered the phone. He didn't hang up. He just looked at Basie. The warmth was gone from his eyes, replaced by the cold, dead look of a killer. He spoke into the phone in Korean, his eyes never leaving Basie's face. Hold him. I'm coming. He hung up. The silence in the room was deafening. You understood that, Duayel said. It wasn't a question. No, Bessie lied, but her voice cracked. You flinched, he whispered. He grabbed her wrist, hard. You understood every word. Who are you? A spy. Police. I'm nobody. Bessie cried, trying to pull away. Liars get their tongues cut out, Dwyer hissed, pulling her closer until their bodies were pressed together. You are coming with me. And if I find out you are working for my enemies, I will kill you myself. But I will make it slow. He dragged her toward the door. Bessie fought, but he was too strong. He wasn't the romantic obsession anymore, he was the mob boss. And she had just been caught. The ride to the warehouse was a blur of neon lights and terrifying silence. Dwyer didn't speak. He sat next to Bessie in the back of the SUV, his hand resting on his knee, dangerously close to hers. He wasn't touching her, but the heat radiating off him felt like a brand. The car screeched to a halt inside an abandoned shipping yard. The doors flew open. Minji yanked Bessie out, his grip bruising her arm. Get off me, she screamed, kicking at his shins. Quiet, Gieseiki, son of a B*****, Minji spat. They dragged her into the warehouse. Ideally, this was where people came to die. A single light bulb swung from the ceiling, illuminating a chair in the center. Kenji, the dishwasher, was tied to it. His face was bruised, and he was weeping. When Kenji saw Bessie, he sobbed louder. I didn't tell them. I swear. Dwyer walked in last. He closed the heavy iron door with a deafening clang. He walked into the circle of light, removed his suit jacket, and rolled up his sleeves. His forearms were veiny and powerful. He looked at Bessie. Last chance. Who do you work for? Minji pulled out a gun and pressed it to the back of Bessie's head. The cold steel made her shiver. She's a spy, boss, Minji growled in English. Let me finish her. Bessie looked at Dwyer. He wasn't stopping it. He was watching her, waiting for the truth. He was gambling with her life to see what she was made of. She looked at Kenji, shaking and bleeding. She looked at the gun. And something inside her snapped. She was tired of running. She was tired of hiding who she was. Bessie stood up straighter. She slapped the gun barrel away from her head, a move so insane that Minji gasped. She turned to Dwyer and looked him dead in the eye. Let the boy go, Bessie said. But she didn't say it in English. She said it in flawless, native-sounding Korean. The silence that followed was heavy enough to crush bones. Minji dropped his hand. Kenji stopped crying. Dwyer's eyes went wide, the pupils blowing out black. He knows nothing, Bessie continued in Korean, her voice steady and commanding. He stole food for his sick mother. That is his crime. If you want to kill someone for survival, kill me. But let the boy walk. Dwyer took a step closer, entranced. You speak the dialect of Busan, he replied in Korean, his voice a low rumble. How? You are a waitress in New York. I wasn't always a waitress, Bessie switched back to English, tears finally welling in her eyes. I was an orphan. I was adopted by a family in Busan when I was 6. They raised me. They loved me. Until they got into debt with men like you. She took a step toward Dwyer, poking him in the chest with her finger. They killed my parents for a debt. I ran away. I changed my name. I scrubbed floors to stay invisible from monsters like you. So go ahead. Shoot me. But I won't let you hurt an innocent kid. Boom. The truth is out. She's not just a waitress, she's a survivor of the very world he rules. If you are rooting for Bessie right now, type Queen in the comments. Dwyer stared at her. For the first time in his life, he wasn't looking at a subordinate or a target. He was looking at an equal. A slow, dangerous smile spread across his face. Minji, Dwyer said, never taking his eyes off Bessie. Yes, boss. Cut the boy loose. Give him $10,000 and put him on a bus to his mother. But boss. Do it. Duaya roared, the sound echoing off the metal walls. Minjae scrambled to untie Kenji. The boy didn't waste a second. He grabbed the cash and sprinted out the door, sobbing his thanks. Now, they were alone. Duaya and Basie. Duaya closed the distance between them. He reached out, his hand wrapping around the back of her neck. His touch was possessive, heavy. You hate men like me, he whispered. Yes, Basie breathed, her body betraying her by leaning into his touch. Good, Duaya growled. Hate is passion. I can work with hate. He pulled her crashing into him. His lips smashed against hers, a kiss that tasted of danger, blood, and rain. It wasn't a gentle kiss. It was a claiming. Basie should have pushed him away. She should have run. But the fire in her veins was too hot. She grabbed his shirt, pulling him closer, matching his intensity. For a moment, the world dissolved. There was no mafia, no debts, no fear. Just the heat of the man who wanted to burn the world for her. But the moment was shattered by the sound of a gun cocking. They broke apart. Minjae was standing by the door, his gun raised. But he wasn't pointing it at Basie anymore. He was pointing it at Duaya. You've gone soft, boss, Minjae sneered in Korean. Letting witnesses go. Sleeping with the enemy? The syndicate won't like this. It's time for new leadership. Betrayal. The right-hand man just turned on him. We are heading to the final showdown. Can Duaya and Basie survive this together? The gunshot echoed like a cannon blast inside the metal warehouse. Basie flinched, expecting pain. But she didn't feel it. Duaya had moved faster than humanly possible, shoving her behind a stack of crates as the bullet sparked off the concrete floor inches from her foot. Stay down, Duaya roared, his voice feral. He didn't run away. He ran at the gun. Minjae fired again, but Duaya slid across the floor, kicking Minjae's legs out from under him. The gun skittered across the floor, sliding into the darkness. Now, it was a brawl. Basie picked over the crate. She watched the man she feared, the monster, fighting for her life. Duaya was a whirlwind of violence, but Minjae was younger and desperate. Minjae pulled a knife from his boot and slashed. Blood sprayed. A deep gash opened on Duaya's arm. No! Basie screamed. Minjae pinned Duaya to the ground, raising the knife for a killing blow to the throat. Duaya's strength was fading, the blood loss was too fast. Basie didn't think. She didn't freeze. She saw a heavy iron pipe lying in the rubble next to her. She grabbed it. It was heavy, cold, and rusted. She ran. Just as Minjae brought the knife down, Basie swung the pipe with every ounce of rage she had stored up for 5 years. The pipe slammed into Minjae's shoulder. He howled in pain and rolled off Duaya. It was just the second Duaya needed. He surged up, his hand wrapping around Minjae's throat. He didn't look like a businessman anymore. He looked like the dragon tattooed on his skin. You made a mistake, Duaya whispered in Korean, his face inches from the traitor. You touch what is mine. With a sickening crunch, the fight was over. Minjae went limp. Silence rushed back into the warehouse, broken only by their ragged breathing. Duaya slumped back against the crates, clutching his bleeding arm. Basie dropped the pipe, her hands shaking uncontrollably. The adrenaline was crashing. She looked at the body, then at Duaya. She should run. The door was open. He was wounded. She could escape this life right now. Duaya looked up at her, sweat dripping down his face. He saw her looking at the door. He didn't try to stop her. He just closed his eyes, accepting his fate. He was alone again. Basie took a step. But not toward the door. She tore the hem of her apron, the symbol of her servitude, and knelt beside him. You're bleeding, she said, her voice steady. Duaya opened his eyes. Shock registered on his face. You could have run? I told you, Basie said, wrapping the cloth tight around his wound, making him hiss. I don't run anymore. She finished the knot and looked up. Their faces were inches apart. The blood, the dirt, the danger, it all faded. Why? Duayal asked, his voice breaking. I am a monster. Basie reached out, her hand cupping his bruised cheek. Maybe. But you're the monster who came back for me. Duayal let out a shuddering breath. He leaned his forehead against hers. I will burn this city for you, Basie. I will give you the world. I don't want the world, she whispered. I just want to sleep without being afraid. Then we sleep, he promised. 6 months later. The morning sun filtered through the sheer curtains of the penthouse overlooking the Seoul skyline. It was quiet. Peaceful. Basie sat on the edge of the massive bed, sipping her coffee. She wore a silk robe, and on her finger sat a diamond ring that cost more than the restaurant she used to work in. She looked behind her. Duayal was sprawled across the sheets, fast asleep. His chest rose and fell in a deep, rhythmic rhythm. For 3 years, the Mafia Boss couldn't close his eyes. The demons kept him awake. But now he slept like a baby. Basie reached out and gently ran her fingers through his hair. He stirred, a lazy smile spreading across his face without him even opening his eyes. Stop staring, he murmured, his voice raspy with sleep. I'm not staring, she teased. I'm guarding the dragon. Duayal opened one eye. He reached out, pulled her back into bed, and wrapped his arms around her like a vice. He buried his face in her neck. The dragon is retired until noon, he mumbled. Stay. Basie laughed, a sound that filled the empty spaces of the room. She snuggled into his warmth. She wasn't the waitress anymore. She wasn't the orphan hiding in the shadows. She was the queen. And for the first time in her life, she was home. Wow. What a ride. From a waitress hiding in the kitchen to the queen of the Seoul underworld. If you love this story, please smash that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We drop crazy stories like this every week. Do you think Basie made the right choice staying with Duayal, or is a life of crime too dangerous? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching.